What's going on? What's going on?
Entertain the Geeky.
Well, hello.
Howdy.
Hello.
Howdy. Today you might notice there's another person joining us. Friend to the show, Michael Capuano.
That's me.
I love saying your last name.
I love saying my last name.
Sounds like a mafia name.
It's so
like Mastriano.
So, the truth is that I do have familial mafia ties. Like, I've never met any of them. Well, that's not true. I did know my cousin Stevie, who only had one leg, which was lost due to a bad mafia deal. But they're all dead. Like as far as I know, my grandfather didn't actually do anything with the mafia, but like his uncles and stuff did.
My great-grandfather had a picture sitting on his mantelpiece of it because my great-grandfather was a pilot in World War II. Had a picture of himself in his living room on the mantle with Al Capone, who he met at some dinner.
That's fucking wild.
That they threw for soldiers. And I didn't know that, right?
He was so proud of it, too.
Right, and I didn't know that when I was young, right? But obviously after he passed away, they kept the house in the family, and we were sort of kind of cleaning it out. And I looked at this picture, and I said, holy shit, is this Grandpa with Capone? And my cousin said, yeah. And I was like, did he ever tell that story? And he was like, yeah, he did to some of us. And I was like, wow, I wish I would have got to hear that story.
All you have is a picture of you and Matt Smith. Not quite the same.
That's not me and Matt Smith. This is just a picture of Matt Smith.
Oh, that's
that
even
he
sadder.
That he signed. Yeah,
I Pete Davidson.
Dude, paying for the picture is way more expensive than just getting the autograph on a picture, which is fine with me. I don't really care, you know.
You met him.
I met him.
You were near him.
I was. And I turned into a total fanboy nerd. Yeah, I turned into a total fanboy nerd. I'm not usually a person who gets starstruck, but man, it was right after his final episode, and I was just like, you're great.
The hype was like super high at that point.
You're great. You're awesome at this. Thanks for doing all the things you've done, you know?
I had that experience with Kevin Smith.
Yeah.
Tara and I went to see Jay and Silent Bob Reboot when he was doing one of the live showings here.
Was that down in Del Mar?
It was at the pageant, yeah.
Yeah, I was there.
So nice. He came up, we had balcony seats. He came up on the balcony. He sat right next to Tara. And the whole reason I started doing this was because of Kevin Smith. So I was like, holy shit. And I'm like looking at him. I'm tapping her. I'm like, look at him. Look at him. And I'm making a scene a little bit. Yeah. And she's like, yeah, come on. Just act like a person right now.
Calm down. He's just a person.
And I couldn't act like a person. I was like, man, fuck acting like a person. I got this. So I'm spazzing out a little bit. And finally he gets up and he taps me on the arm and he's like, and I was just like, ah!
He was so happy to see you.
I was like, I was in.
Kevin Smith's one of those guys that really, I think, loves and appreciates his fans, right?
He got
genuinely.
To meet Chris Parsons. That's how he felt.
Fucking lucked out, you know? I took time out of my busy life to go to his show.
Exactly. Hell yeah.
That's the last time that I hung out with my uncle before he got hit by a car.
Wow.
Dark.
That's pretty dark, bud. That's a little dark.
We went to the show, and then after that, he got hit by a car.
All right.
He's like, after that, I hit him with my car.
Hope everybody's feeling nice and okay now.
On that note, we're going to talk about some Resident Evil.
Yeah, bringing Mike on the show is twofold, right? Obviously, he's a friend of ours, and he's been on the show before, but he's also a ridiculous video game addict. Same as me, really, honestly.
Enthusiast,
We play pretty much the same games. In fact, we play those games on the same track sometimes.
Yeah, very often.
Like, I'll look at the trophy list, and I'm like, we're at the exact same place in the game.
No, you'll literally not progress in a game until I've gotten there. You're like, I'm going to not play
I don't do that, though. I swear.
Okay.
I just always, before I go to bed, when I close the game, I look and see, where's my buddy at, who's also playing this? And most of the time, we're at the next
trophy after. And I'm like, I'm ahead.
Yeah. I do like to say I'm ahead.
I know
sometimes.
you do.
Yeah, I do like to say that.
It's okay.
As far as trophies go, Resident Evil 4 Remake is not one I will ever get all the trophies on, because some of them are tied into difficulty, and I just don't care about that kind of stuff. Like, I'm not playing the game on ultra hard mode. I don't have anything to prove. I just enjoy having fun with the game.
I did do it with Village, and I think you can do the same thing where you use some of the like unlockable weapons.
Yeah, I did it on Village of Shadows because you had all the unlimited ammo stuff.
Well, you can do that in this, I believe.
Yeah, okay, maybe. Yeah,
I'll be honest, I've only played through it once so far. I know you've done a couple playthroughs, but there's a reason why.
4 playthroughs of the game.
I'm holding off until they come out with the Separate Ways DLC, so that way I can just play through everything again fresh. I'm not like you though. Like, you'll play a game that many times. I consume media like once and then we'll revisit it like 3 years later.
Sure.
Right. So like I just played God of War 2018 again for the second time since it first came out, right before
Yeah, I mean-
Ragnarok came out, and you played that game like 10 times.
I played that game for over 200 hours. at this
Yeah,
point.
like so, like
Holy
I'm-
shit!
yeah, yeah.
and I'm like that with everything.
The
like,
PlayStation. Did you notice how the PlayStation's shaming us now by telling us how long we've spent in each game? Though
that's not a shame. That's a badge of honor.
When I realize I've spent 200 hours in a game, I'm just like, wow, what else could I have done?
200
with that
hours.
200
I played
hours?
Final Fantasy 14, so
I understand.
I got a lot more than 200 hours into that.
I mean,
so.
shit, I've spent almost 400 hours in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah, well.
Replayed it many times. I'm, playing Tears of the Kingdom right now, which we'll talk about later, on some other episode of the show. But here we're talking about Resident Evil 4 Remake. Which I want to get obviously first impressions. Mine personally is it's one of the best remakes I've ever played, and I'm not one of those people that's like, well, get a new idea. No, I like to see the things updated for modern gaming sensibility, right? I enjoy that kind of thing. The Final Fantasy remake, the Resident Evil, the other Resident Evil remakes. I've enjoyed that. And I think this is by far one of the best remakes I've ever played.
I agree. I also tend to not even think of these fully as a remake. I really think of all these things as more reimaginings, which is my preference.
Sure. Yeah.
I can go back and play those original games anytime I
me too.
want.
Yeah.
Right? Like Resident Evil 4 was Skyrim before Skyrim. You can play it on your refrigerator. It's on everything.
Yes.
You know what I mean? So like I didn't need a one for one.
Right.
And so what we get is something that still has 95% of those story beats, but then they expand on it. They change some things up a bit that modernizes it and just makes things make more sense. The camp is still there, but I also feel like if it's a lot more grounded. I walked away not only thinking it was one of the better reimaginings, but like I think it outclasses the original.
I think it does
Again,
too.
like that stands alone as its own thing, but it was definitely a product of its time. This to me is probably the best we've gotten from Resident Evil, period.
Yeah.
And I was not the biggest Resident Evil 4 fan when it first came out.
Oh,
it is not one of my favorites. Yeah. I am an original PlayStation trilogy plus Code Veronica on Dreamcast.
I have it on Dreamcast too.
Yeah, so I was not looking that forward to this at first because do we really need a Resident Evil 4 remake? But what we got was just so much better than what I was expecting and what I had played before.
Yeah.
Was there anything about it that was particularly fresh, like anything that really changed up how the game was for you?
Yeah.
Characterization of side characters. Luis, way better in this. He gets far more depth and growth, and I don't want to spoil things too long, but he may stick around a little bit longer than you expect.
Oh, no, I think, I mean, if we haven't said that, I don't think we have, but yeah, we might get into some spoilery territory. So if you haven't played the game and you want to experience it fresh, go do that and then come back.
Yeah, you can watch this later.
Yeah.
I feel like Ashley has far more agency.
Yes.
Which is really nice.
She's not just the damsel in distress anymore.
Man, it's so much more than just that escort mission. Like she actually can assist in things.
Yep.
And like just feels far more vital. She's not just, the princess that's trapped in another castle.
Exactly. Yeah. And that's what I think original Ashley felt like, right?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, you're just constantly chasing her. And then when you do have her, it's a burden.
Right.
But now it doesn't feel that way. And that was super refreshing.
Yeah.
Just like not feeling like I have to just avoid her dying.
Right. Just being able to tell her to back off is a super helpful thing. Being able to say, hey, back off while I'm engaged in combat with my knife with these guys so you don't accidentally get hit and die. Right.
I do like it though. It's just like, stay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Just like,
not having to heal her.
Yeah.
I mean, good God. You had to spend your healing items to heal Ashley, a person who's not helping you in combat in the original game at all.
Now, could you increase her health bar with yellow herbs?
Yes.
Yeah, I thought so.
Her health bar would increase incrementally as long as you were using a yellow herb. Yeah.
I'm glad that I could just, toke those up myself.
Exactly. Yeah.
Was there anything that you liked less?
Anything that I liked less than the original? Oh.
Either of you, yeah.
Without really thinking about it, I would say no. The one thing that you could say is that they cut a boss fight, which I can almost guarantee is going to be in separate ways. That boss fight would lend itself perfectly to Ada's gameplay.
Yeah, exactly. For sure.
So, but like that, I mean, there's nothing that I felt like, oh man, that's really bummer that they cut
with
that
what
out.
you got, you thought that was pretty negligible then.
Absolutely. And again,
Okay.
I think we're going to get it anyway.
Sure.
Right.
Even things that like weren't in there, I feel like got repurposed in a fun way. Like the giant mechanical Salazar. Like
replaced by a giant fire-breathing statue
I mean,
of Salazar.
it's not the same, and
but it worked fine.
But it was cool. And then you have the little tiny collectibles that you're going to find in those and
that look like the giant Salazar.
And so it's kind of like referencing this thing that's like, well, maybe he was working towards that, and he realized that was so stupid.
Right. When all the charms are based on the original Resident Evil 4 models for the characters, little keychains essentially that you put on your case that do different things.
And like some of Leon's quips were cut, because he's very Peter Parker,
right,
in Resident Evil 4.
Yes,
and some of those were cut and then again repurposed in trophy and achievement names.
Yeah.
So you still get that, like like the what is it, the right hand or whatever? Is it left or right? Like
it's
the right hand comes off.
Yeah.
So that's
no thanks, bro.
Yeah.
It's if you can. What is it? Once you defeat Salazar, I think the trophy is no thanks, bro.
Yeah. So you still
that was a line of dialogue in the game. Well, you're gonna give the girl to me. No thanks, bro.
But like,
what are you saying, Leon?
I definitely feel like the developers, Capcom, and whatever creative unit happened to do this one, I feel like they really got what made Resident Evil 4, because it's a campy game. There is that silliness. But they took that, cut out some of the stuff that was maybe a little too over the top, and then blended in that classic Resident Evil feel. Because Resident Evil 4 did not feel like classic RE.
No.
At all.
I mean, it wasn't scary. It wasn't really, it was grotesque at times.
The remake is, though.
Yeah, the remake is genuinely haunting.
The remake has,
in places,
a lot of the ideas, like I know Shinji Mikami wanted to implement like hallucinations into it, where like you'd be like, seeing ghost, and they do that. They actually do bring in these things where you're seeing visions and stuff like that. So it's super cool.
As the parasite's like taking control of your the central nervous system. Yeah.
Like all these ideas that were left on the cutting room floor that I think would have actually made RE4 better. We have it now. So like, to come back around, no, I don't feel like anything's worse or lessened. It's everything's heightened and refined in a way that this is the definitive way to play. Again, if you're a purist and you want to go play the little game, go for it. But I don't see a reason for me to go back to that except for comparison's sake.
Sure.
So yeah, in reference to the two things you asked, things that were wildly different. Yeah, being able to parry with my knife.
Oh, it's so good.
Is a great gameplay mechanic that can take even the most rookie of players, right? Because it's definitely a very friendly system that I think could take even the most rookie of players and make them look like a super badass in combat.
I just imagine Jason being here like, maybe I can play Dark Souls.
No.
He can't.
No, I can't.
That's me. That's my forte.
So
he can't.
So yeah, that's something that jumped out that was relatively different and welcome, right? And as far as things I didn't like, I think I have to agree, right? There was not really much about it that rubbed me the wrong way. One of the big things that I enjoyed the change of was Salazar himself, right? Yeah. Ramon. Because Ramon is a weird character. You've played the original, haven't you? Yeah. Ramon is a weird character where he's like supposed to be an old man, but he like is modeled like a child.
Yeah.
And his voice is kind of childlike. And I get what they were going for, but they did it better in the remake. He does look like a little old man, but he's tiny, right? And he's got that kind of childy voice, right? So just the visual fidelity of updating the model to make it look more like what they were intending it to be, and the hardware limited how well they could do that.
Like you could see too, like, because he is old, and so he has all these wrinkles, but you can see he's put on like this, he's caked on this like makeup. Trying to like, make his skin look better and stuff like that, which, comes through a lot better. It was the same thing in the original Resident Evil, but it just, the graphics weren't there.
It looked weird. Yeah, it looked like this is a child threatening me.
Though, we're like, holy cow, like this is what the GameCube can do?
Yeah.
Imagine that at one point Nintendo really was making the best looking games, like the original Resident Evil remake and this.
Resident Evil 0, Resident Evil 4.
Man, GameCube's on top. I mean, it hasn't been that way since, but
I think Nintendo's never really needed to innovate in the graphical department, though. They innovate in the gameplay department, right? Sure. And they set the standard, I think, in the industry. I mean, shit, when you look back at like the N64, they kind of set the standard for what 3D gaming was on a console.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Not on a PC, obviously, but 3D console gaming, they set the standard for platforming 3D console gaming, first-person shooter 3D console gaming, adventure, RPG 3D console gaming. So I don't think they've ever needed to be the best looking thing, right?
Sure. No, I mean, like, especially with those first party titles.
Yeah.
You know, like, they don't need that. But
in lieu of that, it was a time when they were really innovating in the graphical department as well.
Like, they brought over every Resident Evil game that had come out to that point onto the GameCube. So you had the entire Resident Evil library up to that point.
Except for Code Veronica.
No, Code Veronica absolutely was on
the
GameCube.
one we got was Code Veronica X, which was the PlayStation version where they changed the haircut of characters for some reason. That was weird. Like,
Steve had like...
They wanted to make Steve look more like Leonardo DiCaprio.
Yeah, that's so bizarre. Yeah. It's 100%. But
that's who he looked like. The moment you saw Steve, you're like, why is he like a tiny Leonardo DiCaprio?
Definitely not the version to play of that.
No.
Like, you can play it on...
Code Veronica's great. Code Veronica X is kind of a joke.
Yeah. When are we going to get that remake, Capcom? Capcom, if you're watching this, because I know you are.
Oh, yes.
Give me my Code Veronica
That's
remake.
how popular we are. We know you're watching,
Well,
Capcom.
I'm on.
They'll have
I have connections.
They'll have Leo come on to voice.
God.
Oh my god. Steve's the most annoying character in the entire story. I mean, his story's heartfelt for sure, but he's really annoying.
Yeah. He was very Canadian.
Like, the point of that game is not only to see Claire again and to kind of get to go back into Claire, someone we hadn't seen since 2, but also to bring back Chris, who was someone we hadn't seen since 1, right? Like, that was one of my favorite parts of the game. When she left and went to Antarctica and the game shifted to have you play as Chris, I was like,
yeah,
Chris Redfield,
And then you get the Wesker reveal, which, you know,
Wesker's alive.
It's interesting because, well, we're spoiling at the end of
Code
4
Veronica's
remake.
Code Veronica's a game that came out.
We're spoiling 4 remake though because you get the reveal now that Wesker is still out there in this. So I mean, I could see them not going back to Code Veronica.
Well, I told you I don't think they need to, right? I think that the point of the remakes and including Chris in 7 and Village was to get new actors, motion capture, and voice acting people in these roles because all of these characters are about to come back together in a big way for 9. So I think the point of it was we needed to see the character at least once, and we've seen all of them at least once.
Right. I mean,
we don't need to see them anymore.
We know Wesker's alive. Like, we don't get the whole thing of, you know,
Jill's alive, Carlos is alive.
Yeah, I mean, like, so, like...
And do you think that's what's going to come up in Resident Evil 12?
9.
That's what I said.
I think 9, yeah. I think they've been planning something big for 9. I think it's why Village initially wasn't even considered to be Resident Evil 8. It was kind of just going to be a side story that connected to Ethan's story in 7. But then when the hype built, they were like, nah, it's just 8. Yeah. It's just Resident Evil 8 now.
There is pretty credible evidence that it was actually being developed originally as Resident Evil Revelations 3.
It was. Yeah.
Because the fairy tale element, all those games have kind of this weird fairy tale.
Oh, I don't think that's even speculation anymore. I think they confirmed that that was what they were initially using it for.
They just repurposed it. And it works. I adored Village. It was my game of the year in
it's fantastic.
2021 or
it's fantastic.
Time has no meaning. But no, like as much as I love Code Veronica and would love to see an updated version, it does feel a little unnecessary.
Yeah.
Because you can just have, because it, like you said, it was kind of a reconvergence of some of the characters. And
Let's get all these characters back into the story.
We're just going to do that in 9. I'm fairly confident.
Yeah.
Like I think that's definitely going to be there, and I hope the rumor's true that they're going to play with the numerology in the title.
Yeah.
Because people are saying like, oh, it's going to be like Resident Evil Phoenix because Wesker's going to be back. You know.
Sure.
So
yeah.
That'd be kind of cool.
Yeah. I mean, I think. Doing even what they were trying to do initially was to set Wesker up as some kind of bad guy, which came to a head in Resident Evil 5. But Resident Evil 5 is not a great game.
It's a great co-op game.
And arguably...
It's not a great game on its own.
Arguably, Resident Evil 4 is when we begun that downfall to leaning more heavily on the action side of what the games were and letting the horror part of it kind of fall to the wayside. And that's not why fans play Resident Evil. I want to feel anxiety. Yeah. I want to walk down that hallway with all those windows and worry that one of them is going to get broken and a fucking zombie dog's going to come in and chew my face off. That gives me anxiety. That makes me feel a thing through the game, even when it was just a PlayStation game, right? When the graphics were Legos compared to what we have
now. When I go to escape the stresses of everyday life,
I want to be stressed.
I want to be stressed by fucking zombie dogs jumping through a window to chew my face off.
Yep.
I love to be scared, but I got to thank Jason because back when Resident Evil 2 Remake came out, I refused to play it. It had been so long since I had experienced that fun and stress that like I wouldn't play it. And
Resident Evil 2 was so
He
badass.
kept,
Oh,
but
dude.
he kept saying to me, like, if you want to come over one day and hang out in the room with me, I'm down.
So
for
I
that.
grew up with my little sister Katie watching me play. She shouldn't have been watching me play. She was a little
Resident
kid.
Evil,
Resident
yeah,
Evil
I was gonna
games
say,
and
shouldn't have been
Silent.
watching
Like
you
she
play
watched me
that.
play the entirety of Silent Hill 2. We were talking about it the other day.
Oh
She
my
would have been
God.
like 8 years old.
That game is so dark.
She's watching. Yeah, I was.
That game's about
babysitting
like
my sisters. I was a bad
mental
babysitter.
trauma over the death of your wife.
Yeah,
like, goddamn.
Yeah, I'm thanks.
Yeah.
I was a bad babysitter.
Thanks,
anyway,
Capcom.
But you know, Jason, like he kept pushing me to play. He's like, you just got to do it. Like you got to push through it. He's like, in fact, there's this free DLC where you can go and get infinite ammo.
You had to spend like $4 or something,
Right?
$4 or $5.
You know, you're right because it's free now though.
It's
you
free
can
now,
get it free now. But so like I was like, okay, well with infinite ammo, so I went and downloaded that and was able to actually like, I didn't actually even use the infinite ammo. But knowing that I could use it made me feel more secure. Yeah. And then Resident Evil 3 Remake comes out, which is a game that I actually do love.
Me too.
Despite the cuts. Like that's a game that was severely cut. But that came out and I'm like, I'm not touching any free stuff. Like, and now I'm all in on it. Like I'm playing through these things in the dark. You know, I'm super immersed. I'm like, come on, do your worst.
He tells his wife, he's like, hey, I need you to just jump in the room sometimes and scream.
True story. I wasn't playing Resident Evil, but she did that to me one time. She actually she fucking Sparta kicks the door open while I have headphones on, and I freak out.
He's like, yeah, I punched her. It was just the one time.
And she gets mad at me because I'm like, you almost gave me a heart attack. She's like, oh, I almost gave you a heart. I'm like, no, I'm actually like my pulse is racing. She was mad at me because I was mad that she scared the crap out of me. You know,
He's like, shit my pants. I just did it.
It's your fault.
And like I'm sitting there, she walks away. I'm like, what did I do? What happened? What did I do? You know?
That's how love works right there.
100%. You know.
Oh, there's a lot of times I question, what did I do? What did I do?
Well, that's because we're dumb men.
We are.
Oh, 100%.
We're horrible.
But,
we're horrible.
I'll sit there and try to do it. It's like, oh, actually, you didn't do anything. You know, I just this TV show made me upset. Oh, okay. I dreamt that you said something. What? It's not fair.
Oh, dude.
That seems a little unfair.
That fight's happened many times. Many times.
I dreamt that you were cheating on me. That seems a little unfair.
Yeah.
Oh,
Because I'm not.
I dreamed about me because
I was sleeping right here next to you all night. I promise.
I was here. I woke up in my own drool, as a matter of fact. It was very unattractive.
Back to Resident Evil.
Yes.
So, but no, like so
We get sidetracked.
But nowadays, like I'm thanks to you pushing me to do that. Thanks to infinite ammo, I don't need infinite ammo anymore.
Right.
And it's.
Well, the funny thing was, you paid for it. I fucking actually worked hard
to
get
unlock
it, right?
Yeah.
Because to get those things in game before they made them available to everybody, you had to like beat the game in under 3 hours.
Yeah.
Which meant, as a gamer like me, meant complete torturous agony for skipping cutscenes and not clearing entire rooms. That was agony for me. Sure. But I did it to get that unlimited ammo machine gun. The what the hell do they call it? The one that has the one that has the spin. Yeah, the Gatling gun.
I think it's amazing.
Yeah, unlimited ammo Gatling gun makes Mr. X a joke.
Yeah. Shoot his hat off with that.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the first time I saw him, I shot his hat off because I was immediately going for his head.
In Resident Evil 4 Remake, did you shoot the hat off of, what's his name? The Big Cheese.
Yeah, Mendez?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course. So good. I was like, oh, there was no achievement for it, I don't think, though, was there?
No, I don't think so.
That was a bummer, man.
There was an achievement within his boss fight, though, not just for defeating him. I don't remember what it was, though.
There's a couple things like that. If you defeated him a certain way, like the when you're down in the sewers and you're fighting the left hand or right hand, whatever it is.
Yeah, the big monster.
If you fight him, if you kill him normally without just like running away.
Yeah.
You know?
There's also a challenge in the game to kill him without using the liquid nitrogen.
Yeah.
Because I don't know if you remember that from the original Resident Evil 4, where you're in like the basement.
I do.
And a big monster thing was chasing you. It had to freeze it with liquid nitrogen. So as soon as I walked into that room and saw the liquid nitrogen thing, I was like, shit.
Yeah.
This part is going to be hard.
It was so good, too. I didn't think they were going to do like the perspective where it looks very cheesy.
Where it's watching the monster
hunting you. Yeah, so good.
Well, and just hearing it scutter around above you. They created a good atmosphere, I think, with the remake. That's something that is above and beyond what makes it a perfect remake for me, not only of Resident Evil 4, but just in gaming in general, is they managed to take a game that didn't have a lot of that darker atmosphere like the originals did and still maintain what the game's story was and add in that. right? There are times when you'd be walking down a hall and all of a sudden all the music would drop out and you're like, what the shit? Why did the music stop?
Why is it so
What's
quiet?
about to happen?
It's interesting because it's like Resident Evil as a series, I think sometimes inspires itself.
Yeah.
It's very clear that Village was inspired by 4.
And vice versa. Village inspired the remake of 4.
Because it's like Village took the setting of 4, but really just added that creepy atmosphere and having you feel so tense. And then now we take that and implement it into 4, and it works better than Village even.
Yeah.
Like I'm shocked that this is now probably my favorite Resident Evil game. You know, I've always loved Resident Evil 2. The original, that is pinnacle
that
Resident
double
Evil.
disc game.
Oh, dude! Like,
Yeah.
and
So
you can play it so many different
the two ways,
different
right?
routes
Yeah.
and everything. Like Remake didn't really do that in the same way, where they're because in the original you had the zap system, right, where you could leave an item somewhere where the other character could go and
pick
find
it
it
up,
and things
yeah.
like that. That was super cool, which they played on and didn't do as well in 0. But anyway,
I think that they tried to implement the ideas where, you know, when you finish your game with Leon, starting a game, loading that save with Claire starts you at a different
Sure.
position in the police station. You come to it a different way than he does. So I think that works well, but you're right. I mean, it was a more robust system.
you had different boss fights, you know. In this, they
pretty samey.
circle back to the same place.
Yeah,
you
it's
know,
pretty
in the
samey.
end.
Yeah.
You know, you still have to beat both, like do like a Leon A and then a Claire B to get the full story, right?
Right, exactly.
You know, but like doing a Leon A, Claire A,
It's just the same thing.
I mean, there's not that much difference.
Right, it's the same game.
Where there really was then. But no, that was always like my watermark Resident Evil.
Yeah.
Then Resident Evil 1 remake on GameCube. Like those
Still own
those
that one.
two,
Yeah.
I thought were like you can't get better. Resident Evil 2 remake, amazing, but somehow RE4 remake to me is now the best that they have put out. And I just was not expecting that.
There's no better endorsement than right there. But I think, to wind it around to, overall conclusion type of thoughts, I think the story is pretty much intact. Like you said, with the little extra flair that kind of adds to some moments that didn't have as much impact or meaning. I like that all of the codec calls happen in real time as opposed to taking me to a codec screen like the old Metal Gear Solid or Resident Evil 4 games. And I agree. I think it's a superior game to the original in every way.
Yeah. It's one of those times where like the advent of technology and stuff really paid off.
Exactly.
It's like they made the game that they always wanted to.
Yeah, and I think that's what people don't get about remakes a lot is sometimes this is just the developer's chance to make a definitive version. People gave Naughty Dog a lot of shit when they did Last of Us Part 1. But it is now the definitive version of that game. It is so consistent now between the two parts that it just feels like one story. And that's the intent.
And that
right?
was from a story perspective, 1-for-1 remake. They did not add
change a
anything. They didn't change anything. And to, the layman, like you might not even really notice it. You might just be like, oh, it's just, slightly higher fidelity. They built it from the ground up, though.
Yeah, absolutely. Using the models they had developed while they were making 2.
I mean, there's complete reworks of, environmental things. Totally different. And they make a lot more sense. You look at some of the stuff in the original and, like, the layout of things, just, it's this weird sort of uncanny valley thing because it's not actually how things look,
Right.
But at the time, you didn't really notice it. Now in the Last of Us Part 1, it looks as real as you're going to get.
Yeah.
And I know a lot of people were like, why am I paying this much for, this 1-for-1? Fair, but if you've never played it, definitely do it. If you love that game, definitely do it.
Exactly.
I think it's just like, it is definitively the definitive game version of that game.
And that's what I think sometimes a remake can be. Sometimes they're soulless cash grab type things, right? And that happens quite a bit in the industry. But I think every now and again something comes along that shows like real care and love was put into this so that we could update it and we could modernize it for gaming sensibilities today. This game came out in 1998. That's not how we game anymore. It's not even close to how we game anymore. Let's revisit this because we love it. And we want to see it updated and with a fresh coat of paint. I mean, the Final Fantasy VII remake, I think, is another perfect example of what we're talking about, right? it's not just a cash grab. It's a new thing.
Yeah, it's
a new thing that feels good, but also distinct from the original.
Absolutely.
And that's how the Resident Evil 4 remake, I think, played out.
Yeah. The Final Fantasy VII remake is
nice use
is
of
the
air
ultimate
quotes
version. Because it's a sequel, guys.
It's a sequel.
It's a sequel.
Yeah.
If you don't know, now you know. It's a sequel. I adore that game, and I'm so looking forward to the other parts. Just because you're not getting just that one for one. They are changing things up, and I can go and play Final Fantasy VII a million different ways
anytime I want to.
Yeah. And it holds up and it looks great. I know that there are people that wanted just a better looking version one for one, and that would have been cool. There actually is like a mobile version.
It's actually coming to consoles.
Yeah. Oh, cool.
Yeah.
What's it called? Like
there we go.
Soldier. Like I don't know what it's called.
It's Crisis something.
Yeah. Like
they put Crisis in all
so
the
like
names.
It still uses that same sort of chibi
style,
but it's way higher fidelity. So like that'll be there. But I do know people that would have loved to have just how Final Fantasy VII Remake looks
in the old
one for one, but like
JRPG style.
Honestly, I've played Final Fantasy VII so many times that like I probably would have been like, yeah, this is cool, but I wouldn't have been as enthralled as I was. I love being surprised.
Yeah, give me something new to latch onto.
The idea that maybe Aerith's not going to die.
Sure.
Like,
maybe the choices we make will affect that, or can change that.
Like, why is Zach maybe bad? Like, these are interesting things. Like, you know, like if we just got that one for one remake, we wouldn't still be talking about it. We still wouldn't be speculating.
Would you? Yeah. Would you give a shit if it was just a one for one?
You would at first.
I mean, I'd play
You'd
it.
be like, oh, this was cool.
Would you finish it?
Yeah.
I mean, I probably would finish it, but I'm not going to max out all the material. Like, we platinumed.
Oh yeah.
Final Fantasy VII Remake.
And
I wouldn't have done that if it was just a one for one.
And Mike put the analogy the best, right? I was Rocky, right? And he was my coach through that hard playthrough, because the real interesting thing is playing it on normal versus playing it on hard. It feels like a very different game. Even though you're playing the exact same game, same fights, same bosses, all of that, it feels like a different game because it makes you strategize before even a random encounter. It makes you go, what do I have equipped? What am I going to take advantage of? What am I going to cast? It makes you think about every fight, not just a boss fight.
Using materia that you never even gave a second glance in the
that was something you would tell me right on the phone, like, oh, well, just make sure while you're doing this, you're also using this. I'm like, I've never used that. Like, oh my God, materia, you have to use that.
Chakra. Yeah, because you're not healing.
Chakra.
You're not. Well, there's prayer and chakra.
Yeah, chakra is a free thing. It doesn't cost magic points, and it heals you based on how much damage you've taken. Mm-hmm. So the more damage you've taken, the more healing it gives you.
Because you're not healing outside of combat. You can't sit at rest points.
Yeah,
like you have to. You have to like make sure that
you can heal. You can heal, but your magic points don't respawn.
That you're right. Yep.
And every chapter, your magic points respawn, but they don't respawn during the game. You either have to find through little boxes that you break,
get to the end of that chapter,
magic, or get to the end of that chapter and still have some magic for that boss fight. And there's a couple of chapters that hit you with a boss fight right at the beginning of the chapter and right at the end of the chapter.
Jesus.
Like the sewers.
The
sewers hit you with a boss fight at the beginning of the chapter and at the end of the chapter, and it sucks.
So you got to just make sure you don't.
Well, and the sewers are the hardest part not to use magic, because those damn lizard men, if you don't use fire, they will destroy you. They can turn you into a frog. They can silence your magic users. Like, those things suck.
Once again, fun through stress. Different kind.
I mean, I can't even count how many times I called him on the phone while I was trying to finish up the hardest parts of the game, right?
How did you beat Bahamut on Ultimate?
Oh, screw that thing, dude. It wasn't even about beating it.
I just need somebody right now.
It wasn't even about beating it because I had done that during the normal playthrough. Yeah. It was about going through that gauntlet of freaking, you fight every summon in the game in a row.
Oh, fuck that.
Right? With the same health and magic that you start with. And on top of that, when you're fighting Summon Bahamut, he loses about 3/4 of his health and he summons another summon to help him out.
It's so good.
Like, what? Compared to the final thing, which is supposed to be the hardest thing in the chain, you get to the 5th fight and it's supposed to be the hardest fight. The 5th fight was a joke compared to the fight against Bahamut. Bahamut, you fight 4th. He's the second to last. And if you lose, you got to start all over. Go through the whole gauntlet again. It was horrifyingly terrible, but it was necessary to get the platinum trophy.
Horrifyingly awesome.
Yeah, I would say differently. I mean, I did it ultimately. But the final one, he can't even hit you if you're standing behind him. He has to turn around. He's a big, slow robot that has to turn around to hit you. So all you got to do is stand behind him and cheese the shit out of him the whole time.
Yeah.
That boss fight is nothing.
Yeah.
Anyway, we got off topic. But I think ultimately, Resident Evil 4 Remake is a remake you should play. If you're a Resident Evil fan, if you're new to Resident Evil, it's
all
a remake.
the remakes are good to play.
Yeah, all the remakes are good to play, no doubt. But it's a remake that I think stands above the rest. Yeah.
I think like if you just want to quick fix Resident Evil, get Resident Evil 2 remake, play through that, then play Resident Evil 4 because if you'll love Leon,
he's consistent between both of them. Yeah,
you'll get to see that growth. Those are the two best ones. I love 3, but your mileage may vary.
I love 3 too, but yeah, you're right. Most people didn't like 3 because it left out the clock tower and it left out, other things
that were really
certain redactions. Yeah.
But yeah. So that's Resident Evil 4 Remake. Thanks to Mr. Capuano for coming and talking about it, for sure.
Thank you for the hundreds of hours that you've placed in it.
Not yet.
I did it only for this. I actually had no intention.
He's like, I wasn't even going to play it, but Jason was like, hey, you're going to have to so you can come on the show.
No, because the 100 of hours, that applies to me. He's only played it once. I've played it for 100 hours by now.
Single playthrough, that's like 30, 40 hours?
No, so single playthrough, I would say, is going to take people anywhere from like 12 to 17 hours.
Yeah. Oh, it's not a long game.
It's also one of the longer Resident Evil games. But now, that being said, I could probably go and get that game down below 3 hours now. Just
speed run it. Yeah.
Like, even only having played it once, because what's taking so long is all the backtracking.
Yeah.
There's
a lot of backtracking.
It
has a little bit of Metroidvania.
I was gonna say I'm a Metroidvania nut, so I took my time and just kept going back and looking for all the treasures.
Speaking of Nintendo innovating, also 2 things where they innovate. I mean, that whole genre, the name of that genre is based on the 2 games they created, Castlevania and Metroid, that birthed that genre.
So to be fair, Konami is Castlevania, which started on
Nintendo. Sure,
but
understandably so. But Nintendo was the one who brought Castlevania to the public, right?
But screw Konami though. Right now, I just want to say that.
Look, when they make that Metal Gear Solid remake, I'm gonna play it.
When they make any game,
I'm gonna play it. That new Silent Hill, I'm gonna play it.
Enough with the pachinko machines, Konami.
Yeah, I just need no
Give
more
us games.
Yeah, give me real games with real substance.
Give them games.
All right. You guys need to go to entertainthegeeky.com. You can follow,
Logo's right over
comment.
there.
Yeah. Right here.
Right on Mike. Right there on Mike.
Yeah, entertainthegeeky.com. You go there.
Boom.
You can do all of our social things there. And do us a favor. If you've played Resident Evil 4, tell us your thoughts about it. Yeah. Was there anything that you loved that wasn't mentioned here, or anything that you just couldn't stand about it, or anything at all? Just give us your thoughts on it. And as always, stay geeky.